On the Track is a monthly web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
In the 1930s, a remote farmhouse in Cashan's Gap on the Isle of Man became the focus of weird events. Following a poltergeist outbreak, a small strange creature appeared. The Irving family, who owned the house, heard the animal speak. It claimed to be a mongoose called Jeff, who had been born in India in 1852. Jeff haunted the family for almost a decade and became world famous. He was even mentioned in the British Parliament. Although the house at Cashan's Gap was demolished in 1971, Jeff remains a Fortean icon to this day.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's me, Barry Tadcaster, back again, and this is my old mate, Jeff the Talking Mongoose. I'm an eighth wonder of the world, me! Thou shalt never know what I am. I already know what you are, you're a talking mongoose. Oh, that's by the by. I was born in New Delhi in 1852. Hey! Well, you've aged quite well, ain't you, mate? Oh yes. If you saw me, you'd be petrified, mummified, a pillar of salt. Never mind pillars of salt. What's happening on the show this week? Well, this week we'll be meeting the Ant-Men of Tibet.
I really like the old credits.
This episode is dedicated with love to the memory of Gertie, Louis' dog for many years, who died this week at the age of 19. Hello ladies and gentlemen, just in case you didn't know, my name's John Downs and I'm the presenter of this peculiar little show. I do all sorts of things. I'm the editor of a magazine called Gonzo Weekly, which actually comes out every 2 weeks, you go figure. I write books and I make records that nobody actually bothers to buy, but quite a few people seem to like. And a long time ago, back in 1992, I started an organisation called the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and this show is all about what the Centre for Fortean Zoology do. My producer Louis is a jolly nice fellow, but he does make life difficult for me at times. For example, he says, "You really cannot do pieces to camera when you've got a bottle of gin behind you." Well, this isn't a bottle of gin, it's an empty gin bottle that's got diabetic fruit squash in it. Why do I have it up there? Because it's a square bottle and it's easier for my poor old neuropathic hands to be able to work on. So I can actually hold the thing and open it and take liquid to refresh myself rather than pouring it all over my face and making myself look like something from a chimpanzee's tea party back in the 1950s. Now, before anybody gets on their high horse and starts accusing me of animal abuse or historical animal revisionism or any other zoological hate crime by endorsing chimpanzees' tea parties, which were a thing in zoos up until the time I was a boy, I'm not. I don't. I always thought they were vulgar, but one thing has to be said. I probably eat far more messily than the chimpanzees ever did, especially these days, because diabetes has managed to do all sorts of horrible things to my central nervous system. If you don't believe me, ask him. I'm very glad to be able to bring you some good news for a change. However, like so much of what we deal with, the physical facts are overshadowed by a web of ancient and, I suppose, modern mythology. This is Hoan Kiem Lake in central Hanoi, hardly the place where you'd expect to find a mystery animal, but for years it was the haunt of one or more giant turtles, which were claimed by some cryptozoologists, and indeed by some mainstream scientists in Vietnam, to be a new species. And unlike so many cryptozoological creatures, there was plenty of evidence, such as this video, that these mammoth reptiles actually existed. Now, fast forward to the present. Just before Christmas, a female Yangtze giant soft-shell turtle was found in a lake in Vietnam. The Yangtze giant soft-shell turtle is an extremely rare species of turtle in the family Trionychidae. The species is endemic to eastern and southern China and northern Vietnam. Until last year, only 3 to 4 individuals were known, 1 in China in captivity and 2 to 3 in Vietnam wild, following the deaths of a wild individual in Vietnam in January 2016 and a captive individual in China 3 years later. And the species is listed as critically endangered in the IUCN Red List. It may actually be the largest living freshwater turtle in the world, and until now none of the surviving specimens that were known were female. The Hoan Kiem turtles with this species, more properly known as Raphitus swinhoei, named after the English naturalist Robert Swinhoe, who did so much to codify Chinese wildlife whilst he was stationed as a consul in China between 1854 and 1862. He sent the first known specimen of this species back to the British Museum. However, some Vietnamese biologists, such as Ha Dinh Duc, and please forgive me if I've pronounced his name wrong, claim that it is a new species that he has described as Raphitus leloi. Another zoologist, Lê Tran Binh, has redescribed the Hoan Kiem turtle as Raphitus vietnamensis. Another genetic analysis was reportedly carried out when the turtle was rescued and cleaned about 10 years ago, which allegedly showed it to be a female and distinct from Raphitus swinhoei. However, the results were not formally announced or ever published in a peer-reviewed research article, and some skepticism has been cast on the results. Now, it's hard not to interpret all this as wishful thinking on the part of the Vietnamese zoologists, who wished to claim that their own giant turtles were unique and distinct from the Chinese one. After all, the history of the Hoan Kiem turtle is inextricably linked with conflict with China. Stories of the Hoan Kiem turtle began in the 15th century with Le Loi, who became an emperor of Vietnam and the founder of the Le dynasty. According to legend, Le Loi had a sword named Heaven's Will, given to him by the golden turtle god, Kim Kai, who lived in the lake. One day, not long after the war and the Chinese had accepted Vietnam's independence, Le Loi was out boating on the lake. Suddenly, the golden turtle god surfaced, prompting Le Loi to return Heaven's Will and thank the divine turtle for its help. The golden turtle god took back the sword and disappeared into the depths of the lake. Le Loi then renamed the lake Hoan Kiem Lake, or Ho Giom, meaning the lake of the returned sword. The last individual, affectionately known to locals as Ku Rua, meaning the great-grandfather turtle in Vietnamese, was reported dead on the 19th of January 2016. A local saw the body of the turtle floating in the lake and reported it to the authorities. The last time the turtle was spotted alive was on the 21st of December 2015. But it is very heartening, 5¼ years later, to be able to tell you all that the species may not be dead after all. As anyone who's ever read Hugh Lofting's classic children's books about the various adventures of Dr. Dolittle will be aware, giant turtles are not only extremely long-lived, but are of themselves very cryptic. and if one unexpected specimen has been found in the jungles of Vietnam, the odds are that there are others. However, the bigger question is whether enough specimens will be able to meet up in order to breed, and if they manage to do so, will we be able to live in some sort of peace without human interference? Watch this space. Louis is very pleased to be able to tell us all that we're doing remarkably well and that last week's episode outperformed any of the previous ones quite significantly. But then exactly what I knew was going to happen did happen, and everybody started taking credit for it. Archie thought it was all because of him.
I'm a very clever dog with a very loyal following on social media, you know.
Wally suggested that it was all because of him. And the ghost of Joe Strummer started floating around the place, and he was saying that it was all because of him. And what's it got to do with Joe Strummer, you might ask? Well, last week I did something which I thought was quite amusing, and I put a few seconds as a sample of the beginning of a song called Know Your Rights by The Clash, which is the opening track from their 1982 album Combat Rock. And whereas I thought that because it was parody, it was perfectly okay to use these few seconds under the doctrine, I think you'd call it, of fair use, apparently it's not. And so I want to say a big sorry to CBS, or whoever it is who are now the digital rights management for the Clash's back catalogue. Well, I know exactly what I was going to do about that. Graham, my dear boy, can you pass it? This is a public service announcement with guitar!
You can't say public service announcement. It's copyright.
Okay, how about this? This is a public information broadcast. And then all I do is just cut in the other bit about the guitars. With guitars!
You can't use guitar. It's copyright.
I knew what I was going to do about that. With mandolin!
You can't say mandolin. That's cultural appropriation.
With glockenspiel! And I think that enough of my family live in Germany for me to be able to get away with using an instrument of Teutonic origin. Now, before I got sidetracked, and as anybody who watches this show regularly will, I'm sure, know, I do get sidetracked quite a lot. Before I got sidetracked, I was trying to explain how everybody involved with last week's episode claimed the credit for the fact that last week's video outperformed all its predecessors really quite remarkably. But we know the truth. It was down to me and Maxine, who are rapidly becoming the sort of 21st century analogue of Woodward and Bernstein. That is, if you can imagine Woodward and Bernstein as a glamorous blonde lady and a fat bloke in a wheelchair. And sidetracking again, if we had adopted this iteration of ourselves as magnificent investigative journalists 23 years ago when I was in Florida investigating what happened when an alleged skunk ape came and killed all the chickens belonging to an old people's home in Sweetwater, I would have been able to call the resulting report all the residents hens. But unfortunately it was not to be. Well, Maxine and I have to admit it was mostly Maxine, have been hard at work on the two different cases that we've been working on, that we have been sharing with you over the last few weeks, and I just want to bring you up to speed. First of all, Southend Council have admitted in the local newspaper that yes, they are using glyphosate. But they say, why the hell shouldn't they? Because it's legal. Well, all sorts of things are legal. If you go to Spain, bullfighting's legal, but we wouldn't want to see that happening on Southend seafront, would we? No, now we've left the European Union, we won't have to. We also managed to get hold of some of the pictures which were taken earlier in the year of dead animals on the beach at Shoebury-Ness, which were allegedly at least poisoned by the excessive use of weed killer by the local council. Now, before we show them to you, I would like to issue a trigger warning and say that these images are disturbing and may upset people, so please, if you don't want to see them, close your eyes and I will let you know when you can watch again, I promise. Now, first of all, here we have a young fox cub which was found dead alongside the beach, we believe in February, but the interesting thing is, only a few feet away from it was this adult fox, still alive, but obviously unwell. And here is the body of a cat which was found in the same vicinity a week or so afterwards. It's very decomposed, as you can see. And in the same vicinity, the photographer found what he believes was a badger, but it was so badly decomposed that he couldn't really tell for sure what it was. Okay, that's the end of the unpleasant images. And yes, now it is safe for you to open your eyes, I promise. Now, it is interesting also to note that over 100 people have signed a petition calling upon Southend Council to stop using glyphosate, and the newspaper article which carries this story has insinuated that there have been a whole string of illnesses and even deaths amongst domestic dogs, and have questioned whether this is something to do with glyphosate. I don't know, none of us know, but we're going to continue investigating this story and we will keep you up to speed as and when we know anything. Now on to the other story that we've been working on. Maxine has managed to get hold of two more paintings which appear to be by the same person who painted the mysterious picture which appears to be of a Mngwa, the Southeast African mystery killer cat. These two pictures, one is of a lion's and the other is of a jaguar. Sadly, this does put paid to the theory that the artist is somebody who specialises in Southeast African wildlife, because that would have given us this tantalising possibility that somehow the artist was linked to somebody who had first-hand knowledge of the Mngwa, and jaguars, as we all know, are from the New World. However, one thing we do have from this is we do have an initial for the artist. The artist is C. Peters, and so please, if any of you watching this have heard of a wildlife artist called C. Peters, or have pictures in your own collection from a wildlife artist called C. Peters, or can do anything that can possibly point us in the right direction, please let us know, because we'd be very, very grateful. And now we return to our interview with Mothy Whittard and Matt Everett. This week we're talking about their upcoming Fortean Film Festival. How did the idea of the Fortean Film Festival come about?
Well, we entered a lot of film festivals, and clear that a lot of them are very politicized and very elitist, and we felt like the film was getting overlooked and possibly even not considered based about what the subject is, because it's not really, it's against the status quo, especially in wildlife. And no matter what sort of I feel like to them, if it goes against what they believe or common academia, they'll just shelve it. And we decided to make it with, you know, show films based on their value.
Yeah, obviously we did quite well in circles, but it was we had some strange, unexpected results, and had some long conversations together, and it decided that we'd had enough of an inside look at how some of these film festivals were operating, and decided maybe we can't, but we're going to give it a damn good try. We're gonna try and put on a good show. We're going to try and really good judges. You know, the judging panel's really class. You know, we've done really well to get the likes of Doug Hychek, the exec producer of Monster, and Bobo from Finding Bigfoot. We've got Sapphire Sandalo from the Travel Channel. Roberts as well, who's like a well-known UK ghost hunter. So, and all of them have a pedigree in TV and film. So ideal judges for the show. And then of course yourself and Carl from the CFZ, who bring your unique brand of weirdness to the party. So it's a great lineup. And hopefully we'll get some good submissions. Sorry.
It's going to be great for networking, you know, at the actual event itself. You know, it'll be really good for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's going to be massively exciting. In fact, I don't know why no one's thought of it before.
I think so too.
Have you got any submissions yet?
So we've got a couple come in. It's early days. We've only been live on Film Freeway for just over 2 days, I think. But yeah, so they're trickling in already, with the promise of more on the way. So it may even transpire that we need to, you know, book further dates just to screen all of the films that come in. Obviously, if we end up with enough submissions and they're of quality that are worthy of selection, and the filmmakers want their content screened, then there may well be need to extend our bookings.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer and I are telling you, please remember to ring that notification bell. Otherwise you won't be told when we've got another show. Hint, it's going to be next Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed watching, and thank you very much for sticking all the way through to the end. I want to say a big thank you to Louis, Graham, Charlotte, Maxine and everybody else involved. And, as I said, with a little bit of luck and a fair wind, we'll be back up next Saturday at 3 o'clock-ish. So, until then, be seeing you.